Something pretty incredible has been happening over the last few years, and it all revolves around China and gold. We're going to dive deep into the theory of how this ancient metal is being strategically used to build a completely new alternative to the US dollar, and what that could mean for the future of, well, all money.
In this quote right here, it just gets straight to the point. This isn't just about some minor shifts in currency values. No, the stakes are way higher. We're talking about the fundamental plumbing of the entire global economy. So the big question is, what is China actually doing? So let's start with the core idea here. The People's Bank of China has been on an absolute buying spree, becoming the world's #1 buyer of gold. And this isn't random. It looks like a very deliberate, very calculated strategy to back their currency, the Yuan, with something physical, something tangible that has been universally trusted for thousands of years.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts of China's plan, you gotta ask the most important question. Why now? Why is the world suddenly shopping for an alternative to the US dollar? Well, it really all boils down to one simple, powerful word: trust. Or maybe more accurately, a growing lack of it. And there was one single event that poured gasoline on this fire. In 2022, the United States froze about $300 billion of Russia's foreign reserves. Now, if you set aside all the politics, the financial message this sent around the globe was a shockwave. It was a wake-up call, and the message was loud and clear. If your wealth is stored in dollars, you might not have the final say over.
And the reaction was almost immediate. That move basically put an existing trend on steroids. You had central banks all over the world, especially in emerging markets, starting to sell off their US treasuries and buy up physical gold instead. And the results? You can see it right here. The dollar's share of global reserves has now dropped to a low we haven't seen in decades.
All of this created the perfect opening for China to present its own alternative. And let me be clear, this is about so much more than just stockpiling gold. This is a systematic blueprint for building a whole new financial infrastructure completely from the ground up.
And the plan really breaks down into 3 core pillars. First, you accumulate a massive and very public stockpile of gold. Second, you build the actual infrastructure, the pipes, so that other countries can use that gold. And third, and this is the really clever part, you work to change the global banking rules to make gold a top-tier financial asset once again. So let's break each of these down.
This timeline really tells the whole story. For years, China's official gold holdings were pretty flat. Then, around 2018, right when trade tensions with the US started heating up, boom, their buying just goes vertical. And they are not being quiet about it. They want the world to see those vaults filling up. It's a clear signal that there's a new alternative to US treasuries in town. So, next up is the infrastructure. Some people are calling it the gold corridor. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a Fred Flintstone blockchain. It's not digital. It's a physical network of gold vaults spread across different BRICS countries, and they're all linked to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. This is huge because it solves the trust problem. A country doesn't have to ship its gold to China. It can be held in a regional verified vault. It's decentralized custody, but for physical gold.
Okay, this last pillar is a bit technical, but you have to understand this because it is an absolute game changer. For decades, international banking rules treated gold like a second-class asset. It was Tier 3, meaning banks could only recognize half its value. But under the new Basel III rules, gold got a massive upgrade. It's now a Tier 1 asset, putting it on the exact same level as cash or US treasuries. This was a seismic shift in the financial world.
And the next step, the final boss level if you will, is getting gold classified as an HQLA, a high-quality liquid asset. Think of this as the ultimate VIP status for money. These are the assets that banks use as collateral for the overnight loans that keep the entire global financial system from freezing up. And right now, that system runs almost entirely on US treasuries. If gold gets HQLA status, it can compete at the very highest level.
So you hoard the gold, you build the infrastructure, you change the rules. What does that all add up to? Well, it's the creation of a complete, parallel financial system, one that can handle trade, lending, and development, all while operating completely outside of the Western dollar-based world. And this comparison just lays it out so clearly. On the one hand, you have the legacy system. You need US treasuries to get a loan, you're dependent on the US dollar, and you're working with institutions like the IMF. Then you have China's proposed system. A country can use its own physical gold to get a loan from a BRICS institution, completely bypassing the dollar. It's a whole new architecture.
So let's walk through a real-world example. Imagine a resource-rich country in Africa. They could deposit their physical gold into one of these new vaults in the network.
The BRICS Bank could then loan them yuan against that gold. With that money, the country builds a new power plant or a new port. And just like that, a major development project gets funded and built without ever touching the IMF or the US dollar. So what is the end game here? What's the really big picture? We could be heading towards a future that's totally different from anything we've seen in our lifetimes. A world that doesn't have one single dominant currency, but instead offers a choice between competing systems, each built on a very different idea of what money should even be. And this really gets to a deep philosophical divide. On one side, you have the BRICS vision, money backed by a physical thing, with trust built on thousands of years of human history. On the other side, you have a potential Western counteroffer, money backed by technology, by digital assets, where trust is built on math and cryptography. It's really a clash between the tangible and the digital.
For the first time in modern history, we might see governments actually having to compete by offering a better idea of money. And that leaves us with this one final, critical question to ponder. What happens when countries, and maybe even individuals, can finally choose the monetary system they truly want to use?